大家好，欢迎收看三角洲行动全球联赛第二赛季的 EU 全面战场决赛。队员都是根据2周半的预选赛平均分成的2队，认识的确实不多。大家一起来看看水平吧。
Well, the first game of the day, it is time for the Delta Force Global League European Warfare Finals. Season 2 is here, and it's time to get active. And yes, of course, you do start with the tank, so we're going to get active here quickly. Now, a couple things. As a reminder, we are in our in-game spectator. This is our esports spectator. We've got an amazing map fly through. We've got, look at this overview free cam. It's awesome. But as we go through, feel free to ask questions as needed. Red is going to be your attackers all day today. Defense is going to be in green. So pay attention to those colors as needed as we swap POVs and take a look at some of these fights.
Oh, yeah, immediately just popping up some of these angles. That's what I was most worried about when it came to Trainwreck, are these open spaces. But when you get granular into here, how can you keep an eye on every single angle? But mind you, we're keeping an eye out for our top slayers and our top medics. So prioritizing those reses is going to go a long way, especially with being in Victory Unite mode, less tickets.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Obviously, some nuance to Victory Unite. That's something that you'll have to continue to pay attention to, is you're going to only have 200 tickets to start things off, 200 lives to work with on the attack. I saw players talking about it in Discord, super prioritizing, making sure to keep each other up as much as possible on the attacking side. Defense, absolutely the same as well. But it was funny, looking so far so good for the defense. I was looking at the Discord, and one of the things that the defense said was, hey, the first point, very difficult to hold. Don't worry about it too much. We really want to set up for the points coming a little bit after. But so far so good for the first, 15 tickets, 25 tickets or so.
Look, if you're going to have Polska Guram on Team Alpha, that was your heavy-hitting team. That was the mainstay when it came to Season 1 on Team Bravo. They attributed for the most amount of kills on the map and almost broke 1,000. Look, they're like 250 away. It was really impressive. Of course, you do have, I believe, let's see, it is Volkswagen who's potentially new for the finals alongside Polska Guram, so keep tabs on them.
Yeah, and we're going to take a quick look, swinging around the corner. Yellow Love on your screen right now. Usually our team, the boys as it were, we've got somebody in a vehicle and everybody else is running engineers to make sure they stay alive. You can see on the attacking side, I believe that's Westa in the tank, barely able to stay up, and they're getting pressured, quickly taken down. A great effort there from Relax to make sure that tank gets cut down. That's a big pain, a big thorn in the side of the attack. To bring down the tank this early in the first 50 lives, impressive stuff from the defense. They are losing point A, but it's still a massive victory to get that tank out of here.
Well, look, you got 30 seconds left on that urgent backup deployment. Love this update that came in from Victory Unite. You get temporarily reduction on your allies to redeploy and get back in it. So we can be hyper aggressive. You can dive in and just keep putting that pressure onto them. As you can see, Slicks do just that. Back up to the free cam. You can see the setup here. And honestly, if you just look over to the top right, the red is getting annihilated. But one was just trying to hold on, not before being completely taken off guard.
Yeah, and this is what I was a little bit worried about. Again, green's going to be your defense, so to start things off with that tank down, yes, they had some people on the point, but without the pressure from the vehicle, all of a sudden the defense has rallied back and almost completely taken back this point. So far, so good. Usually when we talk about metrics of success in warfare here, Tiff, talk about 90 to 100 lives or so per point is about max you want to spend on the attack. Anything more than that is a big win for the defense, as you're not going to be going into the next point on max lives.
All right, well, John the board, John the bomb, Yellow Love, Slicks, and Heisen the commander you were outlining, and it's really good to kind of see them run it back, especially if they had prior won in Season 1. You're going to come in with that ultimate confidence. They played in a ton of the show matches, so we get a lot of information on how they work together, and their cohesion is crazy. The vibes are always high, but you can see 2 engineers, and you have that Luna 4 information. Love that. But when it comes to this close range combat, people have been testing different weapons, and I've been seeing a lot of the QBQ lately, and that has been really fun to see.
Yeah, this kill feed is lighting up green. Huge success so far for the defense. Finding another great angle over the top. One of the things I saw the players talking about is we don't have to play extremely aggressive as the attack. We can slow it down a little bit, Make sure we play together. We don't want to waste lives. And unfortunately, well, that strategy was working earlier. All of a sudden, without the extra firepower from their tank, things are looking a hair grim. We're going to see the Aluru guided missile coming out, try to help out teammates. Get some assists, but so far, a very clean hold from the defense right now. A is completely swarmed by the defense. They've held all angles, and this is the strategy you oftentimes see on the first couple points. If it works, you can hold them at the very first point. The key to it is not body stacking on the point. It's separating and picking up players on the attack on spawn, making sure they don't have a large group of numbers all working together, making one coordinated push. If you can keep them on their back foot, keep them separated, absolutely could hold here on the very first point, which would be a huge win for the defense.
All right, well, we're going up the top, and we immediately pick 2, and Canyon kind of regrets that peak, but it looked good for just a moment. Reinforcements coming that way. Now, if we can filter our way past the cement truck, over top of the wood pile, we're just trying to take these head peeks and really work towards A if we can through these angles. But it's been incredibly difficult because you're right, the defense has been so powerful. Now that we're looking less than 75 tickets, how are we going to turn this around?
Yeah, it's going to be, we're going to turn it around by taking down Q-Pitch right here.
You're going to try.
Absolutely frying SMG, AR, pistol. Doesn't matter what he's got. Q-Pitch going crazy. Good call out, top of show, Tiff. Great player, but a new tank is on the board, and Westa immediately gets into the mix, trying to open up the point. Decent move. Here's the problem. If you just go swarming to the point immediately, trying to open up for the team, you're going to lose that vehicle nearly immediately as well. This is not pubs, folks. This is coordinated esports effort, and because of that, these vehicles will not last long if you get too close to the point. The defense has set up near flawlessly thus far, and they've just got to do it for probably only a couple minutes more, and they're going to win on the very first point.
Oh, breaking out the signal decoder and just trying to get closer if we can. M14 in hand, and you saw some nice pepperings and a couple angles, but we haven't really been able to get the fulls in the data knife. Just trying to finish it off, but can't do it. But the pressure from behind, check out that dive to the flick around, is just not gonna work.
Yeah, defense is doing everything right here. They're finally, even if they do lose the point here, this is such a victory for the defense to be able to hold for this long. Finally exchanging hands. Only for the second time in this entire game do we see red on point A. And they've got a vehicle there again. Not a tank, but a vehicle nonetheless. And with that transport there, they lose it quickly. AT4s in hand. The defense making one final effort to hold and win the game on point A. And they might be doing it. Look at this defense push. They're picking up doubles and triples just about on every single player. All of a sudden, there's more green than red on the point. This is almost a stalemate, but I think the defense is winning this fight.
All I see is Heisen, John DeBomb going crazy, and Vabatrow falls, the last member of Toxic Team. We'll see them kind of get respawned shortly, which honestly, when you think back to Season 1, they were on that losing side of things, so they do not want to lose here in Season 2. It's a redemption run for them as we see that tank just on the inside. Here come the missiles looking to put that pressure on the vehicles. You mentioned vehicle warfare, but we're trying to deny that, especially when you have to thread through these wooden structures. It can be really difficult. It's more of just a kind of a nuisance at that point.
Yeah, honestly, I just think this is another mistake. I mean, we've got the tank. Now, at this point, when you've got a tank, sure, you've got 10 lives remaining, you got to get onto the point. The problem is we just wasted 2 full tanks before this by swarming the point when we could have played patient, made a coordinated push, and then be able to push onto this point. Right now, defense has entire control over the point. 1-2 lives remaining. That's going to be it for the very first game. Unbelievable hold from the defense. Let's take a quick look back on that replay and why that's true in this map. Because here's the thing, right? And I'm going to keep harping on this. It's not necessarily the player's fault. It's the way the defense has set up. Defense has spread out around the point, not on the point, not body stacking the point as needed. Out around, making sure we're picking up attackers on spawn, making sure they can't make an actual coordinated push. And because they weren't able to make an actual coordinated push, they weren't able to tick this timer down fast enough. They then had to rely on their vehicles to get onto the point. And because of that, the defense was ready for it, able to take down those vehicles very quickly. But it was also some heroic plays from some of our defensive players, picking up triples, doubles. So let's get into it and see what they're able to do this time around as everybody spawns in. 180 lives to start things off.
Woo, all right, let's get into it. Okay, So immediately seeing kind of where people are going to be spawning, and as you look at it, they're going to immediately break. Some people are going to look towards that building in the center here, but obviously you want to kind of maneuver down onto the ground. Like you can shoulder peek around, maybe extend out a little further, use some of that utility, as you can see, single coder, all of the goodies here. But if we're going to just put that pressure on, the kill feed is already lighting up. You can see it there. Cupid's trying to answer back, but it's going to be Caspian, Exenty just getting those opening frags.
Yeah, and it's all about the respawn beacon play. You saw how many, it looks like Exenty was able to push all the way up and place one pretty deep into enemy territory for the defensive side. Pretty good strategy to make sure they can get bodies there as needed. Get bodies on the point quickly from a different angle. But slowly but surely, I think, based, again, on the comms I saw from the attack, this is a patient game. We don't need to play super aggressive. We need to look for openings, and we need to make sure the same thing doesn't happen to us the way it happened to our opponents just a moment ago. And so you can see the difference. Look at the slow play here from our tank operator off in the distance, just providing some covering fire, trying to blow some walls down the front, which I believe he might have already done to make sure this point's a little bit easier to access.
I'm all about that, but on board with Vazia, immediately diving for cover. It's all about, if you're going to be Stinger, you are a battle medic, which is great, right? But you're also a self-healing extraordinaire. So why not drop onto the ATV, reposition yourself, and keep that pressure on, especially if you're looking for some of these cheeky angles. Go behind enemy lines. Flanking is imperative to take everyone by storm, especially though they'll make that call out. So I can only imagine we'll be able to get a couple of kills out of this. But looking to the hills, you see the player peek just closer. Unfortunately, on their left, and will be cut down.
Yeah, trading of blows here, but already some action on point A. As Funky and co are on the point, battling for a hold here. You can see on the left-hand side, this is a commander issuing an order. This is going to, obviously, if you're able to secure this, you're going to get extra points for your team to be able to use your support systems. But already the attack making nice headway on the point. Defense, a nice counterattack, though. They've opened things back up because our tank is not playing extremely aggressive. There's a little bit more room to work with on this point, and the defense is able to get there faster.
I mean, you think about the differences that we saw comparatively to game one and game number two. Where was that vehicle in game one? It was inside of A, trying their best to survive. But when you have a slew of engineers ready to completely combat that and rip it down, of course you want to be more conservative with your tank. Maybe use that long to mid-range. And here we go, boy, hitting the res, preserving those tickets, and getting the teams back on their feet. And do I see a John DeBomb in the vehicle? Because that makes perfect sense at this point.
John DeBomb in the tank playing the backline support. He's opened things up pretty dramatically for his team. They're able to get back onto the point yet again. They've also got a transport vehicle that is swarming the point. This one we can give away for free as needed, comparatively to our tank. Tank playing backup. Here's a look at it. On the back line, shelling down into the point, at least getting some folks weak, if not a couple kills left, right, and center. You can see kills coming through. You also see Slicks in the tank picking up some kills as well. So far, so good. Hyson, our commander, I think in that transport vehicle, getting active on the point. The attack have a nice push right now, and I think John the Bomb's plan is to try to bring down some of these defensive players that are running towards the point, less shelling the point. We got to weed out those numbers so my people on the point can actually win their fights.
Well, back on board, Polska Gurum here. Mind you, they were on the losing side on game number one, and they just have to get A here to tie it up. So Zerf says, that's fine. I'll get active, dive straight in. It doesn't even matter. And we'll even preserve, get our team back up. And Kopoti is going to come back in, commander for the team here on your screen. But I love this. That's how you gotta do it. Just be aggressive. Use that cover naturally. And even with the pistol fight, the reload coming in, I thought he was going to be able to save that.
Yeah, unfortunately it goes down, and that is a successful A capture. That is not the tournament. We're not done yet, but that does mean our attacking team right now, which is Team Bravo, will win the tiebreaker, even if they don't win this entire map. But this is obviously the furthest we've gotten this map thus far. And again, I think it's a really well-coordinated effort from the side of Team Bravo. As they're on an attack right now, they're in final form. They basically only down 7 tickets from start, right? We started at 180. They lost about 60. They gained back about 50. Very well done so far. Now it's about controlling this high ground position on the hill, be able to push back the attack, try to weed out their numbers, and make sure they don't have a continual momentum push on to B. B, not an insane insanely difficult point to grab, especially if you have momentum. You see the vehicles getting involved in the backline should open things up a little bit. But if you get stifled here, there is a decent chance the game could end on B. The point is underneath the bridge. And so depending on the way the defense sets up, if they're able to kind of stifle this momentum, slow things down, and get fully set up, it actually can be decently difficult to take. So we'll see what they're able to do here.
Will be tough. I mean, look, initially, once they unlocked B, you saw what the vehicles did do. They split to the opposing side. You have Yellow Love and John DeBomb just ahead of Volkswagen here, and thankfully, we are investing as much of this damage as we can, and quite frankly, we're open here, but no one's going to be able to destroy him just yet. He's using that natural terrain just ahead of B for that cover, and honestly, a near miss, because I will say John DeBomb is one of the most evasive vehicle drivers when it comes to warfare. And the pocket engineers are already there.
Yeah, I think that's such a key call out. If you haven't watched a coordinated warfare tournament, engineers are everything. Tanks, vehicle warfare, obviously a big key factor in success, but the vehicle warfare just doesn't exist without the engineers. Keeping that thing alive constantly, having the pocket engineers changes the game entirely. One of the things I'm noticing, less pocket engineers even, and more coordinated effort. I think the defense right now struggling to coordinate with their missile attacks. You can have all the engineers you want, but if you got 5 AT-4s all firing around the same time at the tank, that thing's going down. And that's what happened in the last one, mostly because the tank was somewhat out of position, was easier to target, but even still, it seems like they just can't quite get their footing here on the defensive side. And I think it's just a matter of time before they get broken wide open on B as well.
Well, I love that we're already making these changes and these adaptations here, especially on Polska Guram here. The Shepherds, right? You want to bring out those sonic traps, the frag grenades, anything that you can. They're already working to rip apart the vehicles and stop these pushes that you were talking about. So seeing them adapt quickly, it's going to need to happen. However, when you have John DeBomb, who's constantly lighting up that kill feed, just being an absolute nuisance, it's going to make things more difficult for the other side. And you can see it. The entrance right here on the bottom left, just full sending in. Heisen, the captain, the commander-in-chief, right there alongside them.
So far, so good. John DeBomb getting pretty active on the point this time. He's got his engineers, recognizes there's not a coordinated effort. A couple missiles striking, looking decently low, but engineer's going to keep him up, like you said. It's a great effort from Turbo. He just needs more help. We need more people, and they finally get it down. Tank is down from what I saw. Heisen down as well. John DeBomb killed. This could be an opening that the defense needs. The problem is, it's just too little too late. We're already moving into points C1 and C2. And here's the thing, Tiff. Yes, we lost the tank, but we've absolutely earned enough score to call in another one. I think that was a nice strategic call from John to say, we can sacrifice this vehicle because I can get another one right after this, especially if it lets us capture this point.
Yeah, I think that's just absolutely the move there. You can see Slick center of your screen making a move, and it's Heisen, right? Our commander. He's got that nice logo on top of him so you can keep tabs on him in the free cam all the way out towards the right. Now, the biggest important thing is going to make sure that you've got all the information necessary for these coordinated pushes. So diving on board, Q-Pitch first to go down. Canyon trying to hold it together. 5 HP, gonna fall. Fraser team looking for the angles. That SG-552 in hand, and we're just looking for some of that mid-range backup. Even just popping over the top of these train carts, just giving that information before you move in. Those smokes, sure, they can be a deterrence, but that's what Luna's all about.
Yeah, and this is something that the players were talking a lot about, making sure they're using their recon operators to get these respawn beacons down. So you're going to see a Luna, a Hat Claw on pretty much, if not every single squad. It'll be almost every single squad. Obviously, probably the one exception to that rule would be our squad that's in the tanks. Probably going to be the Du Bois, mostly engineers. Complete onslaught right now, trying to find who's got the advantage on C1 and C2. As a reminder, let's go C1, C2, then we go D1 and D2. And I would say C1 and C2 is where I've seen a lot of maps end here on Trainwreck. So this is going to be a tall task for the attack. So far, they've already done what they needed to win the tiebreaker, and everything else is just a cherry on top, potentially winning this tournament here.
Definitely is. Funky. Barricading forward, making those call outs, still looking for the angles. You've got this fence here, and we're just going to keep on swinging for the hills. Data knife going out, and well, goodbye, vehicle. We'll see you later. Working towards this, and I like these angles. If you're gonna jump onto the stairs, filter through the doorways, leave minimal openings for the opposing side to come on in the jump down. Could you imagine if we just hit something crazy instead of just losing our life right there?
Yeah, I love talking macro, but I do love watching the micro hero plays of somebody going absolutely massive on the map with some crazy outplays.
I was ready for it, but their friend went ahead and took them down, and instead we lose our life in the process. But you see the shields coming on in, and we're gonna slowly barricade in. Little DJ out towards the left, not before being ripped down now. Here is the ultimate standoff inside the building, just constantly keeping apprised of these windows on either side. But when you have multiple players filtering through, Click, there's maybe like a meter worth that he can actually get hit from up here. And he's using this cover nicely with the aim.
Patience is a virtue oftentimes on these points. And since this is the first time we've seen a 2-point capture zone, I will continue to use the terminology I've been using for now almost a year on this game, ever since the open beta. This is the classic tug of war, and it's right now absolutely heavily moving towards the attacking side as they have C2 and are pushing for C1 right now. Unbelievable effort from the attack, absolutely dominating this competition. Usually the tug of war lasts a bit longer, where the defense holds one point, the attack holds the other. They then change points, hand them off. But right now, the attack's done a really good job of capturing one, leaving the tank on that point, and just about everybody else besides a select few players moving over to the other. So because of that, they've been able to capture C1 and C2 and have full lives going into D1 and D2. This is a monumental moment here. As a reminder, we were talking tiebreakers, folks. We may not even need it. We are going, this is a single best of 3. We are going into D1 and D2 for the game. Unreal.
Insane, but what do you expect when you've gotten a full save here on Team Bravo? We spent a lot of time watching them. That's going to be Canyon, Click, Crazer, and Cupid. And, well, quite frankly, when you had your top fraggers from game number 1 on the attacking side of things now, you know it's going to be really tough to try and stop any sort of flow that they've got moving on. But for Alcatraz, we're going to sit on board here with them. Team Red, White on your screen. And, well, we'll wait for the rest of them to get back on board. But for now, it's NSD and Alcatraz trying to get into that next course of action. But this train broken down bridge should provide a lot of those angles on this maneuver towards the next points.
Yeah, and this is such an interesting point on Trainwreck 2. You got to remember, one of the only points in the game, actually, that D1 and D2, a split zone like this, is actually vertically stacked rather than kind of horizontally stacked. You got to kind of walk through D1 to get to D2. Of course, you can go around, but it's more of a linear path, which is going to be really interesting for the defense to see what they're able to do. They spawned very close to D2. It's going to be the easiest point to hold in the game, technically, because of respawn points. But with the amount of support systems that our attacker is going to be able to call in, you should see potentially some guided missiles or a lot more vehicles being called in for the attackers for this final push. They are taking D1 nearly immediately.
Look, you gotta do what you gotta do, and this onslaught that the attackers have been able to throw down here on Team Bravo has just been too much, and Team Alpha really doesn't have much time to completely stop the bleeding on this sector objective. So we'll see what that's gonna look like here, but for now, Vazia immediately getting ripped to shreds from just maybe showing a couple inches of their head at that point. So back to the bridge we go, and it just seems like chaos over chaos. Our observers are just finding all of the death.
Yeah, and here's a quick look at D1. Obviously has been captured already from the attacker's side. It looks like our vehicle warfare has continued as down onto the point. They're actually able to keep the vehicle alive. They win the 1v1 in the vehicle battle as well. Serial Killer is keeping their dreams alive, potentially take this. As a reminder, yes, this is a complete different, mode of play compared to what we saw last game, Tiff. But it doesn't mean this tournament is over. If the defense is able to hold on D1 and D2, we still go to game 3. It doesn't matter how far you go. You just got to get past your opponents. But to win this whole tournament, our attackers have to take both points. We'll see what they're able to do.
They really do. Well, you've got Turbo Supercharge here from Meet Your Memers. And, well, when you're on Team Alpha and you are on that savior side, you've got to do what you can do to finesse and find any angle as possible. Alcatraz there on that D1. That's conflicting, right? Because if you're on the defense, you're trying to carve it back, but it's been really difficult for that to happen. But when Westa starts to show up, that's going to be that Ruffalo team, and they're super close to being able to pull it back, but we just got to keep tabs because these angles, man, I'm telling you, they're winning on their close range engagements, their vehicles, and now even these mid-range battles.
Yeah, we've got another vehicle drop here. This was actually a pretty strategic play and a little bit of luck. They barely got it in time, but our commander signaled to hold D1, and it was being recapped. You can see it. It's green right now. It has been recapped mostly by the defense, but they got that secure just in the nick of time for that timer to be red right when that timer ended for the command order. So because of that, they were able to earn some extra score and be able to call on a vehicle. Immediately, we see some vehicle warfare off of the right-hand side. And almost instantaneously, Heisen's being taken down right now. It looks like our defense has set up well. And finally, with the tank off from the distance, this is going to help each other out. This is going to help the attack refine their footing. I think it's Yellow Love in the tank playing support from way down under, throwing shells downrange to try to take out some of the defense. And it looks like John the Bomb in the tank destroyer doing what he does best, which is wheel and deal and pick up a ton of kills. Basically 1v5ing on point D2, trying to open up a little bit of breathing room to retake D1.
Well, what I love, as soon as we saw the, oh, okay, look, I'm just telling you, sometimes you got to take a quick scope with a rocket launcher to make things happen, but they already have anti-tank mines down around the point, so making sure that these vehicles actually take the pressure moving on in, but Boy is going to answer back with some of the vehicles of their own. You can see that respawn beacon there on the bridge. Explosions coming on in, but you really see another vehicle. Look, you lose a vehicle, you bring one in. It's just that constant influx and chaos. But I love that Yellow Love, what they're going to be able to prioritize is throwing down that damage towards the opposing vehicle.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think they connected on too many of them. So we're going to see the defense get into it. But this is a classic strategy. I think that's an INV. We'll have to get a look at it here in a second. But, you know, it's classic strategy. If you can take down vehicles before they land, fantastic. But that doesn't matter right now. Take a look at the top middle of your screen. D1 fully captured by the attack. D2 under fire right now. This is a huge push for them, and they've got urgent backup deployment time for another 20 seconds. It means your respawns are going to come a lot quicker. This is a huge push for the attack, and they're trying to make the most use of it that they can. Defense has swarmed the point. It's not looking like the attacker is going to be able to take it, but this is such a scare for the defense. They cannot lose both of these points, or they lose this whole tourney.
Getting really close, and they're down to 100 tickets at this point, so we'll see how it goes. This is the closest it's been, but there's not a lot left on D2. It is down to the wire, and I'm starting to feel nervous.
Yeah, this is a heroic effort here from Voltaic and Codes. Death Choker, Illusion, Justin playing fantastic right now. Really battling for position on this point, making sure all of these spawns. It's not about killing everyone, it's about killing as many as you can so that the numbers that swarm the point are weak enough to where you can make a defense. This is less about single heroic plays and more about the macro. But as we take D2, the classic tug of war begins, and the defense says, well, we can't refine position, let's go for D1. Here's the problem. Classic strategy working flawlessly. Everybody go to D2. We sit a single tank on the point to make sure D1 would be nearly impossible to retake. Does look like the defense has restabilized a bit onto D2, but great effort from the attack. They're doing everything right. It feels like just a matter of time. I think the question is can they do it in enough time? Only 78 lives remaining, but doing everything right.
Yeah, so you immediately saw when we kind of panned back, it was that Ruffalo team, little DJ, be quiet. They were trying to make a play to recapture, but can we talk about how we just survived that? I'm talking these close range engagements, especially around those points have been wild, but D1, my eyes have been on that all day, because if you had Be Quiet, who had formerly played on Du Bois, has known success, knows what it's like to win, and just wants to feel that again, especially when you jump back to Polskagram. They do not want to let it go in a 2-0 fashion. I can't imagine your Delta Force Global League European Warfare Season 1 champs are going to want that.
I totally agree. Kill feed lighted up by the attackers. Tank Destroyer, extremely valuable. This is something they want to keep alive. It's going to be able to make a lot of value on the point. Pupari did not find an angle there, was just trying to get that thing reloaded so he could potentially do a bit of damage, but with the engineers around, pocket engineer, absolutely valuable. But keep an eye, top, middle. And anytime we go to the free cam, you're going to see it looks like all the defense has respawned here, trying to push for D1. Going to find an angle on D1 at the very least. D2 under fire right now. D1 under fire. And unfortunately, a split push from the defense is actually probably not the play. You want to try to restabilize on a single point. And so now we've swapped positions. Take a look at this. Most of our attackers are on D1 and on D2. Now we've got the tank in a select squad trying to make a push and open things up for their team. This is how you do it, folks. Very well coordinated.
Well, toxic squad, Vabatrow gonna hit that res. It's gonna be brilliant to make sure that we keep that pressure on. It's been so close, but down to around 40 tickets now through the smoke, through the chaos. This is how you have to survive. Just bring it on out. You take pressure from behind, you hit that one, but that is where Stinger is clutch until you have the reinforcements that catch you from a different angle. Ags and T here. I love the angles that we're taking, but someone's gotta rip this player off the hill or we're not gonna survive underneath the bridge.
This is such a difficult double point to take. Again, the linear progression of D1 and D2 is such an interesting kind of wrinkle in the twist of these 2-point capture zones. Here comes Alcatraz getting into the mix, saying, let me open things up for the boys. And by the boys, not talking about the team, talking about the overall side. Again, 5 teams of 4, all qualified to be here, split up onto separate teams and being asked to say, hey, we may have never played together, we may have played against each other, but now we've got to coordinate together. The attackers, Team Bravo, they won map 1 by holding point A, and they've pushed all the way to D2. They have 26 lives remaining. They probably have maybe one really strong push left, and Alcatraz is going for it right now, getting into the mix the best they can while keeping their vehicle alive to coordinate this push. They have full control over to D1. A couple folks on the flank, they're holding it correctly, trying to get everybody respawn to make this push, and they've done it. We're on to D2, Tiff. This is a huge moment for them. It's on the back of this forward squad. I think that's Q-Pitch, I think, on the point, and then we've got the Tank Destroyer playing backup. They found an angle on the backside, and here comes the defense.
Yeah, but with 16 tickets, D2 has been the most complex, but you're gonna do it. Bring in the artillery barrage. Let that do work. If not, you're going to force these people off the point, and hopefully we can make something happen. We hit a res, we preserve a ticket, but the explosion comes in, and we are collateral damage. Canyon there, dead center on D2. Gets shredded, but look how close we are. And with 7 tickets remaining, it's going to be a close one, Ghosh.
It's insanely close. D2 is being completely captured here. Some last moments from vehicles to get onto D2. They've grabbed it. D2 fully contained. D1 is about to be captured as well. The final push from the defense to try to hold either point. They take a little bit back of D2, and there's only 1 life remaining. A guided missile called in. I don't know if it'll matter. It's probably landing directly onto D2. It couldn't get any closer right now. And just barely, the defense is going to win this one. It was a really fun one to watch. And I think, again, it all started here. The attacks did such a good job of coordinating their pushes while maintaining distance with their vehicles, with the pocket engineers, to keep them alive so that they could shell the point, open things up, and then the attackers could just get bodies on the point faster than the defense.
Yeah, and this is where you can kind of see some of those plays, but when you're playing driving simulator, like such as John DeBomb at this point, it's good to go back to the free cams to see the different setups. Right now, if I'm the opposing team, what am I going to do? It's not like I'm going to come look at our main broadcast to see exactly what he was doing, but it's clearly working. But this is that Polska Gurum roster that we've been talking about that is on Team Alpha, and we know the kind of pressure that they can have when it comes to these coordinated, aggressive pushes, but that's going to be the same thing as we would say from the roster that you just witnessed in the replays, because their setups, the top fragging potential that we witnessed from game number 1 was nutty from No Full Safe.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good breakdown. And again, this final push, I love this map. I love the linear progression of this map, but it was vehicle warfare all day, and it all came down to vehicles in the final moments. Some great tug of war, but then the rope was almost fully on the attacker side. Look at this final couple points here. D1 and D2 both being captured. D2 almost fully captured, and it was because of some late moments with the vehicles to save the day. The defense are even able to play again. And the question is, will they be attack or defense in this next game? I think I know, but we're going to wait for the players to make some decisions.
You can kind of coordinate your efforts between the initial rosters. And as we dive into our final game here of Europe Warfare in the Delta Force Global League Season 2, it's the respawn beacons already getting down, and it's going to be NSD Alcatraz trying to open things up.
And immediately, again, this map is quite a bit shorter than the rest of them. But because of that, point A sometimes is a little difficult to take. And we thought Trainwreck was going to be an easy point to take for the attackers. It ended up being stifled there immediately. So we'll see what happens this time around. Cracked, obviously, the OG of all OG maps. This is the original map from the original Delta Force Reimagined. It's been in the game since the very beginning, in the alpha and the open betas, and all the way to now. A fun map, a hotly contested map. A lot of debate around this map, but a fun one regardless. And the attack is already swung up onto A and getting a ton of value on the point. The defense has done what they usually do, which is scatter around the point, trying to play these flanks and weed numbers down to a point where they can take points easily. But in the process of doing that, they've left open the actual point itself to almost all of the attack who are on the point and getting a decent value out of it.
Oh, all right. Meet your memers. Here we are. 2 Stingers, a Luna, a Hack Claw. You're feeling confident. You were asking about the operators. And look, if you're going to be looking to hit that offense heavy, right? Just get in there. Get those angles. You can see we're already taking rooftops. We're feeling super confident, but it's Volkswagen on the ground. Zerf and Skya they are going to be here looking to preserve lives if they can. The QCQ in hand and just pulling out the utility. I like our angles here, but A may convert here shortly.
Yeah, this is exactly why they chose the attack here. Or sorry, this is exactly why they chose Cracked, rather. They didn't choose the attack. Team Alpha.
They ended that way.
They said, we hope when we pick Cracked, they go defense. We feel more comfortable on the attack. And they're right. They were able to capture point A very quickly. They weren't able... I've been harping on this, but it's a really important note. They weren't able to attack and capture point A on Trainwreck at all. They lost on the very first point. They've already done better than that this time around. But unfortunately, doesn't matter how far you get. It's about who wins. The defense wins this. They win the tournament. The attack wins this. They win the tournament. It's 1-1. This is game 3. Everything is on the line.
Back to the overview here. You can look towards the setup, especially towards that temporary command area. And you've got the players that are lining the back and obviously the front, but tech that angle across the road to be able to kind of just put that pressure down. However, when it comes to these hills, they definitely have eyes. You do have some engineers with their launchers and some initial close range 1v1s. You've got to win your ones, especially out there, but it's going to be Serial Killer in the vehicle from very far behind. And I do like it as we get geared up for battle.
And again, much better job this time. Serial Killer is kind of playing on the backside. It was Westa that was driving the vehicles a little bit more into the mix, playing a high-risk play. It usually can work, especially in pubs. In coordinated efforts like this, not as much. So this time they're playing a little bit more patient. It's working for them. They're getting a little value here on B1. This is going to be the classic tug of war that we talk about all the time, where you got to try to pressure one point, make the defense hold the other, and then try to swarm, make a momentum play for the second point, and hope you don't give up the point you left. Usually it's done by leaving a vehicle on the point you originally capped. B1, the much easier point to take in Cracked. It's a lot more open, a lot more room to work. But the defense is not going to give it up 100% easily. They're going to still make a play for this. I don't know if this is a mistake necessarily, but it looks like the defense is completely losing B1 and losing a lot of lives in the process, which is opening up this flank for B2. Potentially try to take both of these nearly at the same time. You can already see B2 starting to tick down.
Kind of challenging, right? If you're Team Bravo and you're like immediately locking in the defense, this is the risk because you don't get to pick the map that you're going to feel the most comfortable on, but you're assuming that you can hold no matter what. So knowing that where B1 is about to fall, B2 is going to have to be that focus, but recapping B1 for the defense will need to be important. Caspian here, as soon as he peeks in, falls, but we keep on filtering through to see what Vazia is up to. M7 in hand, hits the nice reload, but it's the open terrain that we're looking to cut people down in. However, the influx of the opposing side is just too much to deal with.
Look for a big.
One more on me. Wait. You see the big...
Got some commander comms leaking through there. Again, Victory Unite here. The commanders are able to talk to all the squad leaders and issue commands. Could hear a little bit of that coming through as we swap perspectives around. But the free cam showed it to obviously the attack moving. They're I think they've just found their footing. This is a completely different team than what we witnessed in the very first game. Stabilized, taking point B1, now pushing for B2. Now, obviously, the defense going to strike back with a tank of their own. Vehicle is going to be a huge play here, but vehicle spawn's a bit different, obviously, than train wreck, correct? A whole different beast. If you haven't played this map in a while, you got to remember how difficult it can be on either side. A very swingy, momentum-based map. I think a lot of our pubs players struggle to capture points on this map. But in coordinated esports, it's definitely easier. We've seen a lot of really cool moments on this map with tanks climbing walls, shooting down into B2. We might see that here in a little bit. But a stalemate between B1 and B2. Plenty of lives, though. This is not even close to being over. Got 136 still on the map. A lot of room to work.
Yo, I don't know how we didn't get taken down there. We get out with our lives. You've got the friendly Toxic that's going to help with some of her utility here to maintain our presence. We take some damage. We initially filter on, but we go through the door, and that's when you get ripped to shreds. And it just seems like all that chaos is happening here. We'll kind of zoom on out, get a good look at B1. As you can see, you got Meet Your Memers that are kind of uniting around to push out that presence. That's going to be Team Alpha. They're the ones that chose Cracked. They're feeling confident on this map. They're best coordinated effort to turn this into a Europe Warfare win here in Season 2.
Very strong right now. They're even getting value on B2, even though a majority of the team was on B1. Nice opening push is going to be the signal flare for everybody else to storm across this wide open space. This is really where you need a lot of smokes to cover this distance, but also some vehicles to open things up. Now, C1 and C2, honestly, pretty difficult as well. But I would argue usually teams that are able to make it to B2 and take both of these points usually are able to make C1 and C2 as long as they have a decent amount of lives. So I think our metric of success here for the attackers, obviously, they've got to win the map. But the success to go into the second point, you need to just make sure that you've got over 100 lives for C1 and C2, and I think they've got a decent chance of taking the whole thing. A large responsibility, but so far so good. Here's the attack. They're trying to play around. This is that kind of quadrant, that quad I was talking about earlier. You can drive a tank over some of these walls and shoot down into it if you want to. Obviously risk losing that vehicle playing that aggressive, but...
Ooh, okay, Alcatraz. Kind of filtering through. Now, I love what you're saying there, but the moment I think about it, when we go on to see if we get that far here for the attacking side, it's going to be difficult because a lot of the vehicles are going to make a better use when it comes to those sector objectives. But back towards B2, filtering in, you can see the vehicle you were talking about kind of nestling into the slums itself, and Zerf is going to pop on out, find some cover, into the vehicle we go. Once you have all of that pressure, it's like, hey, preserve the vehicle's health, try to keep it alive for the time being, but Serial Killer no longer in a vehicle, wants to get Mixie inside the house and looks for one but misses, hits the flip. But I'm telling you, some of those close range combats, if you're not kind of pre-firing through the doors, there's a good chance you're not going to make it out.
The attack is crushing it right now. They're getting B1. They're about to get B2. I mean, look at, you can see with the X-ray how many red bodies are on that point.
One on B1.
Really well executed from the attack right now, and the momentum is absolutely on their side. I think our defense is starting to sweat because they're going to have to give up this point most likely and force it to C. The problem is, again, metric of success, we need over 100 lives going into C1 and C2, and they're easily going to have over 100. It can be a tall task for the defense. What we thought was going to be maybe a defensive victory early, all of a sudden turns into absolutely dominating for the team that lost priority selection. They lost the tiebreaker, almost lost the tournament in game 2, and all of a sudden they've got momentum. Defense is absolutely scrambling.
Hey, look, I'd be scrambling too, especially when you think about what that looked like for Team Bravo on game number 1. or train wreck. Their defense was absolutely stellar, but like you said, Team Alpha looking completely different. It's like they woken, right? They just knew that they had to lock it in, and they have done everything out. Hey, maybe that litmus test was game number 1, and they're like, I feel confident now. I don't even care. Give us all the reinforcements. Give us all the pressure. 146 tickets, right? They're only missing about 34 now as we move on to the sector objectives for C.
Now here we go. C1 and C2. Obviously, you have the hangar on the left-hand side, C1, that is an interesting point. Technically, you can blow it to smithereens with enough guided missiles. I'm not sure if we're going to have enough support systems for that, but it is possible. Quick look here at some of the vehicles being spawned in. This is where you're going to see more vehicles spawned, more supports called. Big moments for some of our commanders, earn a ton of value for their team with some of the issued orders they can send out. We had one on the attacking side for B2, and I think they were able to execute on that, so they should have a sizable amount of support here from the attacking side, and immediately they are swarming C1 and getting a ton of value on it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, but that angle, you get ripped. Silly kitty trying to be like, all right, it's fine. I've got my launcher in the back pocket. I want to make sure we're taking down the vehicles as they come on in, not getting shredded for ourselves, but moving on over towards this area. You were talking about it. C1, military supply stash. C2, office area. Good look at where we can see this building. This building will get broken down inevitably if that offense wants to make sure that they can completely shred it. You saw that vehicle kind of moving in towards the road, but I think this is a good focus point for their initial attack. You can see everyone kind of on that catwalk, just nestling into the smoke, trying to rip people out of the building as they filter through there. Nice thermal to kind of help through those smokes, and look, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, it's the right play. Again, something that you see in Cracked all the time. If you've played pubs, you've seen it, and even at the high level, you see it. A ton of smokes. You need smokes on just about every map, but Cracked even more so than other maps. You see a lot of stingers, likely some Lunas. We need smoke grenades, and we need to be able to see through smokes. You're gonna see recon arrows probably playing a massive, getting a lot of value rather for your team, so you're able to play for these. You can see 2 Lunas on this team. Onto this point, immediately taking down almost everybody on the defensive side. C1 is nearly entirely swarmed by the attack, and this is a very well-coordinated push from the attack yet again, as they have found not only their momentum, but their stride in playing as an entire team of 20.
Okay, Zen, I see you. Love kind of the angles of keeping your eyes on those windows, and little DJ, out the door we go. Kind of working alongside the team, hanging out in the smokes. Get that information from the commander for that team, and on board we go. Turbo Supercharge. Still trying to hang on here. They've gotten a good chunk of those tickets down, mind you. They were situated closer into the 140s. They've lost about 35. However, the progress is about halfway.
Yeah, and here the tug of war has started. C1 entirely captured by the attack. They've got complete control over this point. And now it's about cutting through a couple of these numbers to open things up for the push for C2. I don't think it has to be very quick. They don't have to force this. I think that'll be a mistake. The best teams on Cracked usually take the first point and slow it down, get all together, and then make a coordinated push for C2. Usually can overwhelm the numbers. We're seeing a lot of hero plays from a couple individuals, and obviously a ton of vehicle value for the attacking side this time around. They're actually winning these vehicle fights. The tank destroyer trying to stay alive. And I don't think they're going to do it. Wow, John the Bomb cut down.
Yeah, I mean, look, he was trying to navigate the vehicle through the alleyways, and Yellow Love waiting with open arms saying, hello, my beloved. Welcome back.
Yeah, they need it. Look at this. C2 being retake. Now, again, coordinated push, sure, from the attack. They are losing C1, so a great counterattack from the defense to keep their dreams alive. It's just about who wins the map. It doesn't have to be pretty. It could go down to the final moments, just like the last one. Yellow Love immediately onto C2, saying, nobody's taking this, not in my face. And they've got a transport vehicle, and they've got an IFV on point C2, and they've completely wiped out all of the attackers on C2, completely retaking. Very well executed from Yellow Love to get into the mix, and at least just give a little bit of reprieve, draw the fire of some of the infantry, so that their ground troops on the defense could retake.
Well, back on. Here we go. I mean, look, if you're going to clear out C2, you've got to get that done. Focus on over to C1. But if I'm Valbatrow and co, I want to make sure on Team Alpha that we are getting our reinforcements back on in. And look at where Turbo Supercharge has moved in from Meet Your Memers, right? Might as well just nestle ourselves deep into C1 and say, nah, you're not getting this. Especially once you see them clear out C2, you know their next matter is going to be making this rotation over to C1. So kind of overextending on out is going to be great. You can rip people out of this road because that's going to be where they're super exposed.
A true stalemate, or it looks like one. Defense getting pretty aggressive here. This is a very risky play, but it's paying off for them for the most part. John the Bomb able to stay alive for a moment, but in a fight. Hopefully with some help of his other vehicle. Now it's a 2v1 vehicle warfare. If they're able to get this vehicle down and not lose one, it's going to be a huge boon, and they're able to do it. They lose one in the process. They trade one out. As long as they don't trade both out, no, he goes down. Both vehicles traded out for one. This could be an opening the attack needs if they can surmount a counterattack with the defense with no vehicles. Nobody having any vehicles now that we can see. That's honestly a good trade for the attack. As long as they're able to stabilize on C2, they can make a push for C1 rather. They can make a push for C2 here shortly.
Copy. Vehicle drop.
Oh, that's going to be so tough, but more vehicles coming in. It's like those reinforcements. You can see the pressure. You see the explosions, and they're denying it straight up. Here we go. Look, we're down to the wire when it comes to this, but look who also wants to get their hand on a new vehicle down on the back lines. It looks like that one's actually going to get wheels on the ground, but we're going to jump on here with Emberson, narrowly avoiding all of the pressure, kind of filtering back in through the side of things. Hey, preserve those tickets. Get your homies back up.
Such a good call out from you, Tiff. That was obviously a trade in vehicles we saw on broadcast, but then vehicles being called in and the trade being also won by the defense. That's a huge boon to have the only vehicle on the map. They use it correctly, they probably win the map because of that one trade. Whoever it was that shot down the vehicles for the attack that was spawning in, kudos to you. Very well executed. A classic strategy in esports, but if you can execute it correctly, absolutely turns the tide in your favor.
To it, you can see it. Look at that. We are just hitting the main roads, but this is when we're starting to return back to form, right? Especially if we're returning to cracked. Why not grab all of your OG operators that have been here since the dawn of time in Delta Force? You're going to feel really confident when it comes to just locking into the assault operators. It's going to be great when you need to make sure that you have to keep on barricading and forward and retake. But I like that we're going to nestle onto these corners. But as I say that, we leave ourselves just slightly exposed, and that is going to cost you everything.
Another vehicle spawning in for the attackers, and I think it looks like one of those. No, it gets taken out. There's the top of that tank gone. They are going to get the second vehicle in, so they will have at least one vehicle on the ground, and it looks like maybe another spawning. But a huge boon for the attackers to at least get one on the ground. They lose a second, though. And again, you know, as much as we tout the heroics of some of these individuals, it's some of the things that we don't see on screen that are hard to capture of those that are playing the engineers, shooting these vehicles down before they land. Those are the true heroes of this map. As we're down to 28 lives, this is a nail-biter yet again on the last couple points. The last couple pushes, here we go. Attacker's tank getting into the mix. It is going to be one tank versus two on the other side, or two vehicles on the other side. Let's see how much value they're able to get out of it. Already extremely weak. The defense immediately targeting Westa here. And I think he's going to go down. That is a brutal loss for the attack. There goes all of their power.
Yeah, well, that was Silly Kitty making a big play that was definitely needed. That's going to be from Team Reborn on Team Bravo. Now, mind you, with 23 tickets left, we need a coordinated effort. They've been able to be just an absolute lockdown on C1, but C2 has been the problem child of the sector objective. So Foxana, Falls trying to make a push. Can Serial Killer, Valbatrow, Exenty, can they get close enough to make this happen for themselves?
Copy. Vehicle drop to
19 lives, no power, vehicles on the side of the defense. Again, this is a tug of war, but it's really a push and pull between two teams Both who have had their moments in the limelight. Looks like we're seeing some value for the attackers on C2. It looks like we've got a lot more green swinging over to C1 to try to maybe play a trade, and Tank holding C2. It doesn't look like this attack's going to be very fruitful from what we can see, unless there's this incredibly heroic effort here from this squad. Serial Killer going massive in the kill feed, but I just don't know how much value you're going to be able to find for the attackers. They're sneaking this. I mean, they've got bodies on point, but I don't know. I mean, they're seeing some value on C2 that we don't see. There's just a lot of green still on C1. I think it's going to be a trade.
I mean, if you're going to literally ghost ride a vehicle into C1, what do you expect? And as you turn your attention over to C2, that respawn beacon is going to be incredibly vital. And here come all of the missiles, making sure that they can push everyone out of the way. But it just delays the inevitable. Reborn, Team Bravo, I saw Silly Kitty get absolutely eviscerated. And just like that, you can see it here. Team Alpha are the champions.
Yeah, this was
Team Bravo.
Yeah, there it is.
Wait a second.
I was about to say, Team Bravo are your champions. It was that close, though. That's what it felt like in the final moments, right? We're right there at the end. It looks like Team Alpha might win. They've got red on both points, but they don't fully capture that. And because of that, the defense is able to win. It is Team Bravo, your champions, your Delta Force Global League Season 2 Europe Warfare champions, just barely eking out in the final moments. It goes to game 3. It goes to the final points on game 3. Such a fun way to end this competition. It quite literally could not be any closer across the board. We saw some monster moments from both teams, but Team Bravo, they win just in the nick of time. I mean, again, this is where I thought the attackers were going to win. This is where I thought Team Alpha was going to actually persist on our champions graphic, because they dominated at the beginning of this map and really had all the momentum until we got to point C here, Tiff.
Oh, 100%. Just immediately you see the A kind of fall. It went really quick. Then you move on to the sector objectives for B. And quite frankly, there was more resistance here, but the way that they were able to just completely power through the vehicle utilization, through just kind of some of these sneaky plays like you see here, you don't fall at that. You keep wrapping around, and then you do have kind of the utility coming in from your teammates to allow even more pressure. Then you have this rotation with those smokes, thankfully, across the road to focus onto B2. Now, it's been tight, but it was well done.
Yeah, it was really well executed from the attack, and I think you said something there so pertinent and so important. The attackers won these first 2 points. They didn't get handed them. The defense didn't really make a huge mistake. I mean, we could review the VOD and maybe find some small mistakes, but it was the attackers just winning their fights. We won our vehicle battles. We won everything, and so the tug of war came down to C1 and C2, and it actually looked like the attackers were going to win that too. Remember, they won their vehicle battles. They won their trades. This is the moment I'm talking about. A 2-for-1 vehicle trade is huge, but it came down to Yellow Love picking up the IFV, getting onto C2, saving it, and then the defense maintaining that vehicle advantage. Whoever you were out there that was shooting down the vehicles on spawn, you won that game for your team. It was so well executed to make sure the attack never had any more momentum in these final moments, and it maintained a stalemate on C1 and C2. And then obviously a big heroic effort to get onto the point in the final seconds to make sure we didn't see an accidental recap after all of that work. Yellow Love gets onto the point. By the way, it was John the Bomb at 101. Q-Pitch was second at 90, and M8 Skyart was third in the top Slayer category at 87. And then on top medic side, Crazer 125, M8 Skyart second in that category at 101, with a couple other folks close. Zerf there technically third at 72. So overall, great team effort.